Imagine you're 15 years old. You've just been chosen for a special honor, to serve the supreme leader personally. They push you into a black van with no windows and drop you off at an undisclosed location. Welcome to the Joy Brigade. This isn't a movie. This is happening right now. The man responsible controls nuclear weapons and lives like a god while his people worship him as one. Former officials who escaped Kim Jong-un's inner circle describe parties that last for days, palaces filled with stolen luxuries, and young girls who vanish behind golden doors. The testimonies reveal something so monstrous that governments refuse to acknowledge it exists. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about evil in the 21st century. It's midnight in Pyongyang. While the world sleeps, former government official Lee sits in his cramped Seoul apartment, cigarette smoke curling around trembling fingers. 2 years have passed since he escaped from the inner circles of North Korea's regime, yet the memories still haunt him every night.
I personally even experienced watching public execution. I was only 11 around.
Lee is one of the few people alive who can tell us what really happens inside the world's most secretive nation. His testimony, along with dozens of other recent defectors, paints a picture so shocking, so unbelievable, that it challenges everything we think we know about human survival in North Korea. What you're about to discover isn't from satellite images or intelligence reports. These are the words of people who lived this nightmare, who witnessed things that should not exist in our modern world, and who risked everything, including their families' lives, to tell the truth.
I felt now I was abandoned twice. In my own country that I was born, I loved, and I wanted to continue love this country and leaders. I made decision to escape to another country at that moment.
North Korea sits like a black hole on the map of East Asia, a place where 25 million people live completely cut off from reality. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to where it all began, to a war that never really ended, and a family that turned an entire nation into their personal prison. When the Korean War ended in 1953, it left behind more than just destruction. It created a split that would become permanent, a wound that would fester for decades. In the North, a man named Kim Il-sung not only wanted to rebuild, he wanted to create something the world had never seen before. Kim Il-sung had a vision that was both brilliant and terrifying. He would create a country where one family ruled like gods.
Leader, are you really dead? If the sky has fallen down on us, and if the ground has failed on us, that cannot be worse. You can't leave us like this.
When Kim Il-sung died in 1994, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in history, a communist country passed power from father to son, like an ancient kingdom. Kim Jong-il took control, and with him came a level of madness that defied belief. The new leader wasn't content with just ruling. He wanted to live like an emperor, while his people ate grass. And when Kim Jong-il died in 2011, his son Kim Jong-un inherited not just power, but an entire system designed to feed his every desire, while millions starved in silence. This family has now ruled North Korea for over 70 years. 3 generations of absolute power, each one more twisted than the last. They've created something that historians struggle to classify. Part communist state, part monarchy, part cult, and entirely evil.
I think he's not going to want to have anybody rock the boat, and I don't think he is going to rock the boat.
Right now, as you hear these words, Kim Jong-un is living a life so outrageous, so completely removed from reality, that Hollywood scriptwriters couldn't make it up. Kim Jong-un owns private jets that cost more than most countries' entire defense budgets. He has yachts, luxury cars, and palaces scattered across North Korea like a real-life monopoly board. But the most shocking part is what he does with it. Intelligence reports from 2024 confirm that high-ranking defections have surged, with more government officials fleeing than ever before. These are people who lived inside Kim's world, who saw things that would make your blood run cold. One recent defector, who worked in Kim's inner circle, described parties that lasted for days.
여자들 들어왔는데 제일 이쁘고 북한에서는 제일 키 크고 제일 멋진 나들이 이런 특가 관련을 들어요. 여기에 이제 특가 하나에 그저 1인 한 명씩 있어요. 김정일이 들어왔다 하게 되면 이 안에
But it's not just the music that would shock you. It's the women. They call them the Joy Brigade. Young girls, some as young as 15, selected from across the country based on their beauty. These girls are taken from their families with promises that they're serving the nation, that they're patriots. The reality is much darker.
이 세상에 제일 맛있는 음식, 제일 맛있는 술, 제일 좋은 담배, 기쁨조, 왕제사모, 보청로 두루두랑 그때는 한 30-40명이 이 안에 들어가서 이제 남자 5-6명을 내서 놀거든요. 그런 걸 많이 목격했습니다.
Kim Jong-un continues his father's tradition of maintaining this pleasure squad, but he's modernized it. Now there are background checks that go back generations, medical examinations, and training programs that prepare these girls for things their families could never imagine. Meanwhile, his wife, Ri Solju, appears in public exactly when the propaganda department needs her to. She smiles perfectly, waves at exactly the right moments, and then vanishes back into the palaces like a ghost. While Kim Jong-un lives like a king, what does life look like for the other 25 million North Koreans? The answer is so disturbing that many people refuse to believe it's real. Imagine waking up in an apartment so cold that you can see your breath indoors. There's no heating because there's no electricity, maybe 2 hours a day if you're lucky. The water pipes froze months ago, so you carry water from a communal well that's shared by hundreds of families. Breakfast is a small bowl of corn mixed with grass, not by choice, but because there's nothing else. Your children eat this too, which is why they're smaller than kids from other countries. It's why they get sick so often. It's why some of them don't wake up at all.
In North Korea, children eat mud, and if you eat mud, eventually you cannot go to the bathroom and you die. And usually parents, when they cannot give their children anything, they let their children eat the mud because that would be the last thing they would eat.
According to refugee testimony at UN sessions, families receive rations of just 10 kilograms of rice that can't even last a month. This means that to survive, every North Korean family must break the law every single day. You can't travel to the next city without permission. You can't change jobs without permission. You can't even complain about being hungry without risking everything. Because in North Korea, walls have ears, neighbors have rewards for reporting on neighbors, and children are taught to spy on their own parents. Recent defectors describe a surveillance system that has gotten worse, not better. The North Korean government has intensified repression, expanding electronic surveillance, and publicly executing people for sharing foreign media. People are being killed for sharing pictures, for having the wrong conversations, for asking the wrong questions.
뭐 누군가 이제 탈출을 시도하거나 아니면은 좀 안에서 좀 뭐 말을 좀 안 들었거나 뭐 이런 경우가 있으면은 안에서 그냥 다 벗겨놓고 그냥 때리는 거예요. 온 밤을 때려요. 그리고 이제
The prison camps, called Kwanliso, are where people disappear forever. What makes these places especially evil is the 3 generations rule. If you commit a crime, your parents, your children, and your grandchildren are also imprisoned. Entire bloodlines vanish because one person asked the wrong question or tried to escape. Former prisoners described fighting over moldy cabbage leaves and tree bark soup. A woman was executed in front of her village for taking corn to feed her starving children. Guards would step on inmates' fingers for sport, then force them to thank them afterward.
안전원이 이제 그 꼬챙이 같은 거 들고 와가지고 다 어떤 남자들 여자들 이런 생식기나 이런 걸 이제 터치를 하면서 거기에 뭘 감췄나 뭐 이런 거 보고 이제
Surveillance is pervasive, arbitrary arrests are common, and punishments for political offenses are severe. But it's not just the formal surveillance that's terrifying. It's how the system turns everyone into a warden, everyone into a prisoner, everyone into both victim and perpetrator. North Korea's economy is perhaps the most elaborate lie. Workers show up to empty buildings and pretend to work because not showing up would mean trouble. They sit at broken machines, go through the motions of productivity, and receive paychecks in currency that's essentially worthless.
Once you own the party membership, you kind of have a privilege in North Korea because that's the core element if you want to make a career development in North Korea.
The only real economy in North Korea is the black market economy, the illegal trading that keeps people alive. Families grow vegetables in secret, sell goods smuggled from China, and trade favors for food. The government knows this happens but pretends it doesn't, because otherwise everyone would starve. The North Korean won, their official currency, is so worthless that people prefer to trade in Chinese yuan or even just exchange goods directly. Imagine living in a country where your own government's money is a joke that nobody laughs at. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un spends hundreds of millions of dollars on nuclear weapons and missiles. While children die from diseases that could be cured with basic medicine, the government chooses to build bombs. While people freeze in their homes, resources go to weapons programs that serve no purpose except keeping the Kim family in power.
부모님도 다 돌아가시고 우리 둘째 그 형도 그 가족들 애까지 어쨌든 다 굶어 죽고 제 동생도 뭐 굶어 죽고 어쨌든 그러니까 결국은 뭐 남은 것은 나하고 형하고.
Getting out of North Korea is a death sentence if you're caught. The border with China is lined with electric fences, landmines, and guards who shoot first and ask questions later. But even if you make it to China, you're still not safe. China has an agreement with North Korea to send escapees back, which means certain death or decades in prison camps. So refugees have to hide in China, often for years, working as slaves or hiding in underground networks while they figure out how to reach South Korea or other countries that will protect them. Women face additional horrors. Many are sold as brides to Chinese men or forced into prostitution. Some are raped and abused for years before they can continue their journey to freedom.
Even that, they don't allow North Korean women to stay there. They catch us and they send us back to North Korea. Last month, China repatriated 50 North Korean defectors back to North Korea. It's sending them Auschwitz. Literally, they are sending them to death camp.
Recent reports show that more than half of the 196 confirmed defections to South Korea in 2023 were high-ranking officials, suggesting that even people inside the system are losing faith. But for ordinary citizens, escape remains almost impossible. Those lucky enough to make it to freedom often struggle with survivor's guilt, depression, and the challenge of learning to live in a completely different world. Many describe feeling like aliens trying to understand human society after spending their entire lives in a prison they didn't know was a prison.
내가 내 배 아파서 난 내 새끼인데 지금 어디 사는지 살았는지 죽었는지도 모르고 지금 그냥 보고 싶어만 하는 그리움 하나 갖고 살아요. 너무 보고 싶어 죽겠어요. 너무 보고 싶고 찾았으면 좋겠어요.
The international community has tried everything to deal with. China remains North Korea's lifeline, providing just enough support to keep the regime from collapsing, but not enough to actually help the North Korean people. It's a delicate balance that serves Chinese interests, but condemns millions to continued suffering. South Korea wants reunification, but the cost would be enormous. Imagine trying to merge a modern, democratic, technologically advanced society with a population that's been brainwashed for 3 generations and has no understanding of the outside world. The United States and other nations continue diplomatic efforts, but Kim Jong-un has no intention of giving up power. Why would he? He lives like a god. From his perspective, the system works perfectly.
The United Nations report released in February concluded beyond doubt that the camps exist. Systematic, widespread and gross human rights violations have been and are being committed by North Korea, it said.
Yet something is shifting in North Korea. The government has cracked down harder on accessing foreign content, particularly South Korean media, which suggests that information is getting through despite their best efforts. USB drives smuggled from China carry South Korean dramas, American movies, and most dangerously, information about how people in other countries live. Young North Koreans are seeing that their paradise is actually hell, that their great leader is actually their greatest enemy. Every testimony from every defector carries the same message. The outside world cannot imagine how bad things really are in North Korea. But these brave souls who risked everything to escape continue to speak out, hoping that someday, somehow, the truth will set their people free. Until that day comes, North Korea remains what it has always been, a prison disguised as a country, a hell masquerading as paradise, and a reminder that in our modern world, evil still exists and still needs to be stopped. The question that should haunt every free person is simple. How long will we allow this nightmare to continue? And what are we willing to do to finally free 25 million people from their prison nation?